For the first 45 minutes during quad witching, things get really volatile until they settle down. So it's best to have multiple spots for entry. Okay, folks, tomorrow is quadruple witching. What is quadruple witching? Quadruple witching refers to a date in which the stock index futures, stock index options, stock options, and single stock futures expire simultaneously, while stock option contracts and index options expire on the third Friday of every month. All four, hence quad, asset classes expire simultaneously on the third Friday, March, June, September, and December. Now, why is this important? It's important because when you have all four assets expiring the same exact day, stocks tend to pin to a specific number because people are unwinding their puts and their calls as well as their future contracts, which is rare. It only happens 4 times a year. So that takes all these little arbitrage out of the market because they're constantly picking at the arbitrage all day long. That's why stocks pin to a number. Now let's get into the ideas for tomorrow. One last thing before we start that. Stay to the end because I'm going to go over the indexes, specifically the SPY, and why this is so significant. So I was asked in the trading room, when is it time to start looking at the Ichimoku cloud again? And I'm going to say that we're starting to get there. It's starting to become important. If you're not familiar with this, I did 2 videos on it. Go to the website and you can find them there. This is a really good predictor of what's going on, and it's one of the only leading indicators that are out there. I tend to use leading indicators, not lagging indicators. But this is Tesla. And why am I looking at Tesla? Because you're seeing the majority of order flow go to larger cap names. And I think you're going to see this tomorrow. Now, all we're going to watch is this higher high. And we have a clear shot to 900. It's very possible that this just pins to 900 tomorrow. But that said, you're going to want to drill down into this and find different levels. Why? Because tomorrow morning, for the first 45 minutes during quad witching, things get really volatile until they settle down. So it's best to have multiple spots for entry. Now, besides a higher high, any major sell-off, these sell-offs usually happen either at the end of the day or at the beginning of the day as people are positioning themselves. You're going to look at these 4 levels. You're going to look at 843.80, 850, 860, and 866. And more likely, you're going to be looking at 865 because we tend to pin towards an exact strike number. But keep these levels out there. It's quite possible that we see this get to that 900 tomorrow. At a minimum, you could get up to this level, which is 886. If you overlay your indicator, you can see you're above the 21. 8864 would be perfect if we get up to there. 885 strike maybe. And we're not even near the 50 day, so we don't have to worry about it. Now, there's 2 types of trades that really work tomorrow. Either large mega caps or stocks that do not have any real attachment to the indexes themselves. Nvidia has a significant attachment to the indexes, as we're all well aware, but there's a lot of points of confluence going here. Confluence are inflection points, and we talked about this before. So you have this 246.65. That's what we needed to flip from yesterday's level. And that took us right into the cloud. So just so we're clear, this is the first time you have cleaned into the cloud since we fell out of it. So this moves us from a bearish environment to a more neutral environment. Clearing the higher high and making that higher high technically gives us a bottom. Now, you need the confirm move to move to a higher high and close above that. But the fact that you made your first higher high, which you have not made since, we haven't really made one since back here, have we? So we really haven't made one since November. So this is pretty significant today. And what we want to see is how this is affected during quad witching. But we're going to do the same thing we did on Tesla. We're going to look at a shorter time frame to find multiple entries. Now, the 2 levels I will watch tomorrow is this 245.50. Most likely you'll pin to 245 if it hangs around here. But if you see a cascade off the open, it's quite possible that you pull back to this 235 level. We had a couple opens and closes here today at the 234 and lower. But this level's been pretty significant for a period of time. So if we cascade down, look at this 235 level. Again, I still think we can push on this to the 260s. I'm just not so sure that it happens tomorrow. Now, those that follow me know that I usually don't play these kinds of names, these smaller names. And the reason I'm bringing it up is tomorrow's a little bit different. So 2 kinds of stocks are most active tomorrow. Those that are tied to the market and those that are very speculative. So if you're interested in finding something speculative, this has gotten a lot of attention on social media. It's the perfect kind of name where you could see people funnel to tomorrow because they get frustrated with how they're pinning the larger cap names. After about 10-15, we start pinning the larger cap names a little bit. And we're gonna talk about that when I go over the indexes on how we can play that. See this level right here? I mean, that's pretty clean. You got over the 195. If you take a look at this today, 199, you close over the 50, which you have not done since you've been here. The volume's absolutely insane. This is a very speculative play, but these are the kinds of names that can move tomorrow. So you could see something like this run up to this 375 level fairly quickly tomorrow. Again, when other things aren't moving and people start chasing, we have FOMO. So they're going to start looking for things that are moving. And if this continues with this kind of volume, this is definitely going to be one of them. Bro's had a great day. It's had a lot of trouble with that 5280 level right in here. And you can see how we have been flipping support and resistance for some time. And your volume's above average, but let's just clean this off and just make this super simple. So if we just focus on what's going on here, we just have a beautiful wedge line that we closed over today. My concern about it was that we had light volume. Now tomorrow, if you see a higher high on this, 57.5, we're gonna call it, just watch this 59.25 level. But if you see 57.5 and you wanna play this, I get it. I would take a look at this tomorrow. It's not tied to any indexes. There'll be no single index futures on it, right? There's nothing like that you're going to have to worry about this that's going to pin it to a number where you're going to have that with the larger cap. And this would be your first target price right here. So this is breaking out, but let's go through a couple other points. As the market starts basing, which you've been doing now since about January 24th to the 28th is when it started, you're going to start seeing these cloud patterns, and they're going to be way more relevant than they've been during the carnage. Now, as you go flat, when you start popping out of them, these are created based upon leading indicators. I'm not going to get too in depth in it, but essentially you popped out of it. So you popped over, it was thin, the lines flipped, which is another signal, and now you're over. So this was a pretty significant day for this stock on above average volume. Again, all you're looking for is 57.5 if you're interested, and then watch the 59.25 and 63.20 level. Crowd was brought up in the trading room. The guy nailed it today, absolutely nailed it. Once this got through that 193.5, and you'll remember this from earnings, where they had excellent earnings, and then the stock just absolutely collapsed the day after. But what you're seeing from this level down, you can just look at this. You came down 20 points, so kind of a disappointment, but now you're seeing it's getting its legs back again. Not really the volume I want to see, but there's a couple key things that are going on here. Number one, you have broken this wedge line. Number two, you are above the cloud. You have not been above the cloud since November. Now, your 21 and your 50 are crossing. They're starting to open up. Earnings are behind us. And look at this. We talked about these stocks making a higher high after basing. That's exactly what we have here. We have a wedge line break. We have a support level. And now if we can get over this and close over this, that would be absolutely huge. So for this, you'd be looking roughly at the 205 level. Also to point out, this is the first time since earnings you've closed over point of control on the volume by price, and this could take you right to VWAP. So I'm thinking that we can get up to this 220 level fairly quickly here if this starts getting legs. Now, in regards to the indexes, this is exactly what you're looking for. See these wedge lines? So when you see these wedge lines and you start breaking these wedge lines, you really want to start paying attention. These are massive trends, and they're starting to show signs that we're getting over that. What are some key telltale signs that we're getting over and doing better? See that level? Look at where you just closed. Look at this bar. This bar is almost perfect. You opened at the low and closed at the high after yesterday. So right here, all you're looking to do tomorrow is get over this 441.10, 441.11 and push. Closing over this is actually confirmation that a bottom is quite possible. You would actually call this a confirmed bottom. Technically, if you close over this line. Why? Because you've undercut the low, so your double bottom's right there. Next thing you have to do is make a higher high once you're over the wedge line. That's right here. So it's very possible that this confirms either tomorrow or next week. So keep that in mind. As I've been saying for some time, we've flipped from being a net seller to being a net buyer based upon what we're seeing in the market. But this is really a significant level. Now, if you look at where your volume is, you're doing pretty well in here. You have a lot of volume that's still in this area that we're going to have to deal with. But if you overlay this with the 50's right up here. We have not closed over it since we broke it in January. But the 21's been back here. We've done it a couple times, but we have yet to do what we did today. And let's take this volume by weighted off and just look at this. We closed over 21 2 days in a row. We've never done that. That's never happened. So that's a really bullish sign. You want to see a couple other bullish signs, we'll put the 8-day in, and you can see the trajectory of the 8-day. You can see the 5 and how they cross, which gives us a short-term buy signal. They're getting wider, which confirms the move. Overall, this has been very good action today. The Qs, now you flip the 21-day for the first time. We've done that in the past. Did we ever do it 2 times since we broke? No, we have not. So we closed over it, then we made a higher high. It has never happened. Okay, this is what you want to see. 2 long green bars breaking out right here. You have really no resistance till you get up here. And by the time you get up to this level, you're really going to kind of run right into this. Okay, so that 350 level really looks like your next resistance point. But this is looking like it wants to push. This looks like it has more behind it. You're seeing orderly buying today. Every dip was bought. It's very different than what we saw before. Let's take a moment and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So before, when we would hit support lines, we would go through them like Swiss cheese, right? We've all seen this. That's not what happened today. When we hit the high of yesterday, which becomes a support, right? Once it flips to resistance and then it flips to support. Look how it flipped today, right in here. And then it took off directly from there, closing at a high of the day. That's strength. That's what you want to see. Now, IWM, which was the first to break in November 8th, you're closing over the 50-day. So this is turning into the leader, even though it's slow and people really aren't paying attention to it. And let's just point out a couple things. There's your level, 205.30. Flip that level and close above it, and you have a confirmed bottom. So, and this could base for a very long period of time. I'm not saying that we're going to run right back, but you're technically confirming here by closing over this line. And this would be 3 days in a row of higher highs. 1, 2, or 3 green bars, but the next one would be 3 days of higher highs. Now, the VIX is just imploding. You're wondering why the option trades you're in aren't working? It's because the VIX is imploding. It's going to get worse tomorrow for your option trades. So for your option traders out there, be aware of it. We had a trade on in options today on Tesla, for example, and that trade, even though we really captured the majority of the move, on the call side, we only yielded 50% by the end of the day because the volatility is contracting so much that it's taking out the profit. I'm a big believer that we put the bottom in. Now, I could be wrong, right? I've been wrong before. But what I'm getting at is you see this date right here, okay? This date, this turn, this low that was just the next week, we were up. Okay, this was quad witching. This from the pandemic, this was quad witching. This is quad witching that we're in right now. Okay, this is what we're dealing with, and this is what we're seeing. Now, if you take a look at these moves to put it into some kind of perspective from the peaks, all right, there's a 20% move. Now, this one's obviously going to be a little greater during the pandemic, but you're going to get the idea of where we're going. 32%. Now, look at where you're at here from the peak down. And I know this went a little longer tonight. Okay, so you got 15% there. All these have one thing in common. They've all sold off, and now they're all going through quad witching. And I think that's really important to note. Why is this so important? It's because they're taking off their put position. When you unwind your put position, you create net buyers through the option markets. So keep that in mind for tomorrow. Everybody have a great night and trade to win.